Okay, so recently I came by the news from an article released by Jason Schreier from Bloomberg, where basically he mentions that a project started by a small team called Visual Arts Service Group that is owned by Sony Corporation. These guys, according to Jason Schreier, have been the long unsung heroes of many hit PlayStation video games, with popular hits such as Spider-Man and Uncharted, are the ones that I saw he mentioned. So, first of all, before we continue, if I can bother you with making sure you click like on the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It always helps out. Thank you for anybody who supports it. And all right, let's get on to the video and to the topic, right? What this studio basically does, the Visual Arts Service Group, is that they help to finish off a game that was designed by a Sony-owned studio by working on the animations, art, or other content and development. So once this studio decided that they wanted to take the lead on a project instead of being the sideline heroes, they targeted the ambitious goal to expand upon some of Sony's most successful franchises, which led to the start of a remake of 2013's The Last of Us, and they wanted to remake it on the PlayStation 5. So now that the team, they ended up starting this project, it appears that Sony never really gave him, full acknowledgement or something from what Schreier says in his article, and that Sony took this project from them and then fully assigned it to Naughty Dog now, which, as you know, it's a Sony-owned studio, if not the most prestigious, and I would say that one and Santa Monica Studios are the best studios that Sony owns. And they're also, Naughty Dog is the creators of the Last of Us franchise, right? So, not to go over all of the article, which I'll leave a link to the article below in the video description somewhere, as it really goes over some interesting issues with the gaming industry and how Sony is mainly focusing on blockbuster titles, and they're having a conservative approach to making PS5 games, and how they're not really expanding on their IPs. It really does seem like we are in a in a remaster and remake era, which is what I kind of want to mainly talk about. Also, these blockbuster titles appear to be causing, in the gaming industry for the studios, a lot of stress and unrest across, all of these Sony's portfolio game studios, right? And as they keep reorganizing these studios, it appears that the talented developers are starting to leave those studios, which is a pretty big issue if you're a PlayStation owner and always looked forward to the PlayStation exclusives that are usually amazing games. And if you have this talent leaving, then it's kind of like, Sony's PlayStation exclusives are going to be kind of walking out the door as well. And that's their main selling point too, right? So anyways, let's focus mainly now on this topic, right? The title of the video, The Last of Us Remake for the PlayStation 5. And if it's something that I would buy or would think that other people would want to buy, and if I think this game should be done into a remake. Because I'm a huge fan of the first game. I really am. I played it back in 2013. I loved the game. I loved the story, the pacing, everything. The characters, the gameplay was fun, at least for a PlayStation 3 title, right? So, I guess something I've noticed now that the news has been out for a couple days is that I've seen that there's been a lot of resistance for the remake of this title, and quite frankly, I get what people are complaining about, especially if a new sequel to another game is being canceled in favor of making this remake, which, from what it looks like, the title is Days Gone 2. I have not personally played the first Days Gone yet. I did buy it a couple months ago and will be playing it soon and uploading it to my channel. So check that out whenever I do. I have some gameplay walkthroughs of some games, in addition to some random videos like this one. But I will say that I have seen, there are mixed reviews from gaming critiques on Days Gone, right? I mean, I could see why Sony would decide that, but from friends and user reviews also, I have seen that, from normal, I would say typical gamers, they have actually enjoyed Days Gone quite a lot. I hear that, once it was fixed and patched, it was a pretty solid game. It wasn't perfect, but it was, it was really solid for being at least a PS4 exclusive. And, now that it's compatible with the PS5, I see that it runs even better and whatnot. So, I mean, I would think that if Days Gone 2 would be made, that all the issues they had in the first game, which was made by a smaller studio, I think their name was Ben Studio, and they're not as known as the other Sony-owned studios. They're not as big, obviously. They don't have the same funds, I guess. That, the experience they got from making the first game and all the complaints people had of the first game would be more than likely fixed for the second game and improved in many ways, which I'm all for that. I mean, a new game, it's a cool world that was created, at least from the videos and all the from video reviews that I've seen. And, it looked pretty damn fun. I mean, it looks like a cool world, like I said. Maybe they could have had a better name for Freakers than, for the zombies or infected, whatever they have. They could have chosen a better name. But if they're going to make this game with better gameplay, better AI, better graphics, story, etc., I think that makes sense, I would say, if they're going to make a second one. I think there's still interest from people. But maybe the executives think that from the sales not being as high, that maybe it wouldn't sell as well. I don't know. So now you have a team that is not Naughty Dog. And this team's only task, from what I'm understanding, is to remake The Last of Us, or I think they were wanting to do it on their own. Which is a game that has all the story and script dialogue already created. The cutscenes are already created. Levels, game design, whatever else I'm missing, it's all done. And it was a fantastic title, right? I mean, it was a fantastic game of the year, a bunch of awards. So when you see that a major studio, Naughty Dog, is focusing on whatever other games they're doing, then I'm all for a remake being made of a game that is not even that old. I mean, it came out in 2013. But, I mean, usually you see these remakes like the Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, which were PlayStation 1 games, and you see that big change. So with a 2013 title, I mean, you won't see that big change. Plus, there's a remaster in the PS4 that looks fantastic and plays well and everything. But, I mean, there's still a difference of The Last of Us Part 2 or The Last of Us 1, graphics-wise, right? But my main point is that if you have the main studio, Naughty Dog, focusing on other games, and then there's other studio, Visual Arts Group, whatever the name is, they're wanting to do a remake. They already have everything else pretty much done. They just have to, I guess, improve certain things. But the main studios can focus on other stuff. I mean, I'm all for that. I mean, I always welcome remakes of games that I'm a huge fan of. And I mean, like I mentioned, I love the first game, I think it's definitely like my favorite game of all time, if not very close to being it. I couldn't think of which other one at this point, except for that one, that I've enjoyed way, way too much. I mean, I would personally love to see The Last of Us updated with better graphics than The Last of Us Part 2, which were obviously amazingly beautiful looking, even for a PlayStation 4 game. Now you see it on the PS5, it looks even better. I would love to see the game's environment again, like from the first one, with much better graphics, play it with improved, smoother gameplay, and mainly play the game with improved AI, where it feels more realistic with how the enemies move and how they talk to each other, and simply how they coordinate, kind of get sucked into that world again that I really enjoyed, but I would love to enjoy it even to a further next level. And like I said, I mean, for me mainly, I very much enjoyed the story, pacing, dialogue of the first The Last of Us. And for the second game, quite frankly, I did not like the story at all, what they did with the characters. The pacing was not good either. It was too coincidental in the whole story. I mean, just the game story as a whole, I think it was just not really that good. I mean, some people defend it, some people liked it, and that's fine. We all have different tastes, and that is fine. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, some people, it was very divisive. Some people loved it, some people hated it. I mean, unfortunately, I was hugely disappointed by it, and I did not enjoy it. So, to me, to hear that a remake of one of my all-time favorite games, if not, like I said, probably my favorite one, is getting a brush up and will be looking even better than it did when I played it, and everything will be simply improved, then I'm definitely game for that. I will throw you my money, Sony. Day one. However, I mean, I don't like that due to this game, though, you know, other games are being canceled that are keeping things fresh as well. Or other projects are being delayed, you know, due to Sony assigning this remake now. I think, you know, if I understood it correctly, they're taking this from that Visual Studios and they're reassigning it now to Naughty Dog because they want to focus on blockbuster hits. And I guess they're becoming scared of taking that risk of doing a new IP or a sequel to a game that, you know, maybe didn't sell as well, but hey, the sequel could be better, you know? There's always that case where the second game could be better. There's very few, but there's always that case. And then here comes the other discussion, I guess. You know, on another note, the remake factor. Remakes can mean several things. At least I think so. I mean, if I'm wrong with what I say right now, correct me. And, you know, whenever I make another video, I'll talk about that. Or, you know, like, I'm not saying here I have all the right answers and then what I think is what goes, right? I mean, this is just my opinion, what I think in the moment. And if anything, or if anybody else has a different opinion, you know, I always welcome and open up the comment section to anybody that wants to comment, you know. But here are my options. This is what I would like, or these are the options that I see, and I'll tell you what I like and what I don't. Option 1 would be that this remake is simply the game being remade from scratch on the PS5 code. The graphics are updated to look better than The Last of Us Part 2. There's new animations that are added, new AI, improved gameplay, improved sound, etc. But the game's story, dialogue, script, cutscenes, and acting previously done are all left untouched and will basically be the same as the first game, just improved, as I mentioned, graphically, you know, and better sound and all that stuff, right? The order of the events, though, the level designs, they're all the same. This is the option that I would want 100% to support of this remake, and I would buy this game pretty much day one. Like, if that happens just like that, I will be buying it day one, $60 or 70 if they're now $70, but hopefully they don't actually go to 70. Anyways, $60, boom, day one. I mean, I paid $60 for Resident Evil 3 and it was a 4-hour game. I would definitely pay $60 for this game in a heartbeat. So then we have option 2. All the technical upgrades mentioned previously are improved, obviously. You know, obviously it's a remake, right? But then, you know, the story has changed a bit, the dialogue and stuff like that. This is, you know, they end up changing that, I guess, to modernize it. I don't know. This is something that I really hope that it does not happen. I think that the story and dialogue is something that needs to not be messed with, as I consider The Last of Us to be a masterpiece in that regards. That's why I think, honestly, I mean, it's like gameplay wise, it's not anything revolutionary, right? But the story, you know, taking everything together, that's what made the game a masterpiece. The acting, the tone, the music, the suspense, the tension that it builds, you know, the relationship between the characters, and how you care for everybody. That's what made it a masterpiece, in my opinion. So if anything of that gets changed, it's a very fine line that you're messing with, and I don't think they should mess with that at all, you know? So I really hope it doesn't get to that point, quite frankly. Like, in my opinion, like I said, if any story and script needs to change, and some people will hate me for saying it, but I mean, it's like, I'm just saying what I think. If anything needs to be changed, I mean, it would be the story and the script of The Last of Us Part 2. Simply, I mean, to me, that game, the story was a disaster. I know it won awards for best story, but I mean, it's becoming like the Oscars, in my opinion. You know, I don't think the best story won. And plus, like, the candidates there wasn't even that many to compete with, except for Ghost of Tsushima, which it's a fantastic story as well, right? I mean, is what at least I've heard. I mean, quite frankly, that one, I still need to play that game. I actually bought it. I need to play it, upload it to the YouTube channel. But character development wise, like, I just don't think it was that good on The Last of Us Part 2. They could have done so much better. Like I said, everything was so coincidental, and it was just like forced and pushed, and it wasn't as natural as the first game. But, you know, that will be a whole other video that I will make at some point to talk about. You know, let's keep focusing on this video and the topic of the remake. So then the other and final option that I have thought about, and this is like a huge maybe, okay? Like, this is just a maybe, just maybe. They do what I said from option 1 for the game, right? Everything story-wise untouched, just graphically and all the technical is all improved. But then additionally, you know, when you're making the remake to the first game, you know, you make this remake even longer, where they include a whole prequel with Joel and Tommy during the 20 years of pandemic that we don't see what they go through, and have only heard references of the past throughout the first and second game. When they mention, you know, when they're chit-chatting and they mention things about, oh, I've been on both sides, that Joel says when he was a hunter at some point. And I think in the second one too, Ellie tells Dina, yeah, Joel or Tommy told me about some general that they tortured, and he would make him point something out and then go to the other guy, you know, that whole thing. Like, you know, you get to see all that, right? That is something I would want to see from the Last of Us franchise. More expansion into Joel and Tommy's journey right after the pandemic started and all chaos broke loose. I would love to see how the two Miller brothers ended up having their big temporary fallout, and also how both changed from the beginning of the pandemic to when they meet up again. See the things that, you know, that they both had to do to simply survive. The characters that they met. See how Joel met Tess and Bill previously. You know, what things Joel and Tess had to do to survive as well, or smuggle, you know, because they were smugglers. You know, what things Bill did, or like, you know how they said, they keep saying that Bill, or Joel says that Bill owes him a huge favor. I want to see what that damn favor is, you know? I want to see what Joel did, how he saves Bill, and what is a huge freaking favor that Bill owes to Joel. And I also want to see how Tommy was convinced to join the Fireflies under Marlene's command, you know, and what is it that made him go that way, and then what is it that made Joel go the opposite way. And they just had this huge, you know, I guess fight where they didn't talk to each other for years and years, until you end up meeting him again with Ellie at some point, and then it's kind of like, well, you know, we're brothers, right? You know, we're not gonna kill each other. They kind of, you know, chit chat and catch up and whatever. But anyways, at the end of the day, that would be a game that I would be very interested in playing, whether it is a standalone prequel or if it's added to the remake. And I know it's far-fetched, but if this prequel is made into at least 15 hours, plus the 15 hours of the game of the original first Last of Us, it lasts about that. I think it's about 15 hours. I mean, if you do your math, simple math, right? And then we have a 30-hour remake. It's like 30-hour remake. Yep, I will pay day one money for that. I mean, I would love to see that. Which would also approximately be the length of The Last of Us Part 2. That game was freaking long, 30-hour, pretty much a 30-hour game. And half of it, you're seeing things from a character I really didn't care about. I really didn't care about Abby and her crew. But I mean, that's a whole different subject. I'll make, we'll talk about that in another video, I guess. But I know that the last option is pretty far-fetched, like I said, but one can only dream of that. Maybe if there's somewhere where people can put these things and everybody come together and ask for this prequel with the remake together, and it can be done, and Sony can put the right resources into it, it'd be great. So I guess in conclusion, what I'm saying is that I am not against remakes at all. If a remake is done correctly, and if the game is already good to where story-wise and script-wise it doesn't need to be messed with, I think they should not mess with that at all and just upgrade everything else that I mentioned, technically wise, I guess, from the game. But, story-wise, not to mess with that at all. And I hope they don't. And, hopefully also that, by doing this remake, it doesn't... they don't end up screwing themselves where they don't do any additional games. It is what it is. Sometimes big studios need to take over these really well remakes. But, if you can find a studio that is very talented and it's already been helping Sony out with other great games like, the Spider-Man game and other Uncharted games, and I can't remember which other ones they mentioned, but, you can see it in the article. I think that if they can do that, if that team has been able to do that and help out with high-quality work, why not let them do the remake and then your main studios focus on other games? It sounds like a no-brainer, but I guess Sony's getting maybe a little pressured or scared, and they want the Naughty Dog to take care of, because it's The Last of Us is such a huge franchise of Sony, of their exclusives, and they have to maintain a reputation. So maybe, I don't know. I think I remember seeing in the article too that the other studio, like, people started leaving the studio because they noticed just how politics were working, and they took the game from them or the project from them. So hopefully at the end, hopefully this tackles the subject of what I think about a remake of The Last of Us. I hope that it's something great comes out of this, especially since Days Gone 2 seems to be pretty much last nail in the coffin, I guess, at this point. It seems to be canceled. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think about a remake, about this game, what you think they should be doing, or what you want them to do, what you don't want them to do. If would you buy the game? Would you not? At the end of the day, let's just all hope for the best, and if they are going to be having more remakes of great games, that at least they're going to be worth everybody's hard-earned money and everybody's time. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like that video. It always helps out, and make sure you subscribe to the channel, as I'll be uploading more videos of topics like this, and also have, like I said, walkthroughs that I put up of games when I play them and what I think about the games and stuff like that. So, all right, take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.